Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the CCN News Media On Point. And this evening, we're on point with Mr. Matt Brandon, and we're talking about conceal and carry weapons. In the event that you should be authorized to carry a weapon and you have the conceal and carry certificate, then I want you to be safe and to know the right way to respond should an officer stop you and approach you. How should you respond when you know you have a conceal and carry weapon? And I'd also like to ask Matt, when the police stops a car, do they know if you have a conceal and carry weapon? Do they know if you're certified to carry something, or is everything a surprise to them? They don't know until you tell them.
Well, yeah, there's no way that they would know that you have concealed carry unless they've been investigating you and making the stop. They're making the stop as the result of some ongoing investigation. But just normal citizens driving every day who have concealed carry, the police officers say they see you commit a traffic violation and they pull you over. They won't know until you tell them.
Okay. Wow. It's interesting because I remember not long ago, I think it was a few months back, when hey Adrian, how you doing? When I saw on television that there was a black man, his wife, and a child in the car, and he got stopped by the police, and he told them that he had a weapon, a concealed and carry weapon. And I don't know if he reached for it or what he did, but he was shot. And I was like, oh my God, when I saw that. And my son told me a couple of months later that he got a conceal and carry weapon. He's an Uber and Lyft driver. I was like, I was so frightened. I was like, I don't know if you should do that. If you should have a weapon with the conceal and carry, because they still will shoot you. And then he said, Mom, I very seldom get stopped by the police. I said, but that's up to this date. You haven't gotten stopped by the police. But suppose you get stopped now and you got a conceal and carry weapon, you need to know how to respond to the police so they won't automatically just shoot you. So that's why I asked you to come on, Matt. And that's why I'm so glad that you took the time to come on and just give us some education on how we should respond, what we should do if we're stopped by the police and we got a conceal and carry weapon. Tell us what we should do.
Well, first of all, I want to make sure that I say that a lot of the incidents that we've seen with the police have actually shot and killed particularly black men, black people, because black women are getting shot too. A lot of that is totally unjustified, and some of it is outright murder. So we have to be clear about that. And those cases have to work their way through the courts. And fortunately, the courts are getting a little better with how they handle it. But going back to concealed carry, now, I was a policeman in the 70s up till 2002, okay? So
I can hear.
I would stop. You can't hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. All right. So when I would stop a car, say for a traffic stop, and I would approach the car, I would first make sure that my approach put me in a position where I wasn't in danger, which then puts the person in the car in a position of not feeling threatened. By that, I mean, police officers are trained on how to stop a vehicle. They're supposed to pull their car behind you and angle the front of their car out from back out to the street, so that when they open their door to get out, they have cover of their door. And that when in order for you to shoot at them, you would have to turn completely around. So the police At that point, there's no reason for the police to be scared because they have the total control of approach if they do their jobs the way they're supposed to.
I
Now,
see.
as they come to approach you in the car, they walk to the car, and they should never walk to your side window where they're looking at you in the window. That's a terrible approach. Police officers have been killed by doing that. Matter of fact, in a scenario when I was recruit training in the academy, they put us through scenarios, and I got killed doing that same thing in that scenario. So it taught me well. What they're supposed to do is come to the driver's side, as long as there's, they see one or two people in the car, come to the driver's side, and they stand behind your driver's door. So that when you address them, you have to look over your shoulder.
I
Okay?
see.
You have to turn and look over your shoulder, and they can see down on you. They can see your lap. They can see your hands. They can see everything.
I
It gives
see.
them again control, total control, and it gives you the ability not to be a threat.
Okay.
So then, if at that point in approach, and you're turning and you're asking officer, yes, officer, if you don't know why they stopped you, 9 times out of 10, most people, if they run a red light or do something, they know. But they're going to say, why'd you stop me? And that's state. That's okay. That's a question. They say, why you stop me, officer? And they tell you why. And then I would have, as a black man, and I do this now, I'm an old black man now, and I do this now, put your hands on the steering wheel and keep them there and tell him, officer, I want to tell you I have a concealed carry and I am armed.
And
Okay.
I am armed. Okay.
And I am armed. And
Okay.
then they're going to ask you, do you have the weapon on you? Is the weapon in your glove compartment? Where is the weapon? And you tell them. And if they tell you to give them the weapon, this is what I suggest. I would tell the police officer, no, I would rather keep my hands where they are, and I would rather that you recover the weapon. I'll
Okay.
tell you where it is. It's in my waistband, it's in my glove compartment, but I would much rather, officer, that you recover the weapon so that you don't feel fear and I don't feel fear.
Okay.
Okay?
That's smart.
There's no win in trying to think that this takes away from your manhood and you have to challenge, right?
Yes.
You can make all those challenges after the weapon is recovered, okay?
Okay.
Because then the threat is gone. Then you can get upset and you can yell, you can whatever you want to, but as long as you got a weapon on you in that car, make sure that you control the situation. The police are going to
You
think that they're in
control the
control.
situation.
You control the situation by your actions, okay? And have that mindset that I'm getting stopped by the police. I know what they're going to do. They're going to come up here. 90% of them are afraid, okay? Because they don't know what they're doing. Half of them shouldn't be the police in the first place. And they're going to come up to your car. And so you emotionally have to take control of the situation by saying what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to make sure that my hands are visible. If I'm carrying, if I have a concealed carry, I'm going to tell the officer I'm armed. And if they ask me to get the weapon, I'm going to ask the officer, please, you recover the weapon. You can open my car door. I'll tell you where it is. And I think that's the safest way to be.
Oh, come on now. Now I love that. I love that. So you heard it from a police officer. Andrea, welcome to the show, sweetie. How are you?
Good. I want to say, Matt, my brother's name is Matt, but his real name is Matthias. And everybody calls him Matt, but I still call him Matthias.
Okay.
I know that a lot of police officers are scared, but there's a lot of young men and a lot of young women that enter into the police office, the police, because you automatically get $72,000. That's the pay. That's the start pay. And if I was a police officer, and if someone said that to me, I'd be so scared to reach in. I would tell them, okay, please exit your car. And he'll tell me, okay, it's on the seat or wherever it's at. because I wouldn't want to reach in or get into the car with the same person. I'd want him to be out of the car or her to be out of the car. So, you know, I would be more calm if I needed or felt I needed to retrieve that weapon. But either way, you know, these are such scary times. You don't know what people are going to do, especially if somebody says I'm a concealed and carry weapon, you know, licensed weapon. And why would he be pulling him over to begin with? Was it because he did an infraction in traffic? Did he go through a red light or something like that? So he just stopped him for that. And then, you know, let's say your son, Wanda, says, well, police officer, I'd like you to know that I have a concealed weapon. I have a FOIA card for a concealed weapon. Sometimes I think that might even escalate how, well, it depends. If the officer is older, like if he's in his 50s, you know, then he's more seasoned. But if he's like in his late 20s or 20s and early 30s, you know, those are the worst ones.
And he's probably real scared.
That's what I mean.
Well, here's one of the things. First of all, I'm not saying that you volunteer any information. If the police officer comes up to the car and says, you ran a red light, I need to see your driver's license and insurance, and you say, sure, and you go to give it to them, and again, you want your hands visible at all times, and you hand it to them, and they go back to their car and they come back. I'm not saying that you say, well, I've got concealed carry and I've got a gun. You only do that if they ask you. If they ask, don't start giving out all your secrets.
Okay.
But yeah, if they ask you, I think it is better for the outcome that you say yes, okay? Because you don't have any idea who these people are, and by that I mean these police. You know, some of them, like I say, shouldn't even be on the job. You know,
Right.
so you try to make sure that you control the situation. That's all. And as a police officer, you make that decision to either tell them to get out, which you know you can do. Sometimes that leads to a back and forth. Why do you want me out of the car? I don't have to get out of the car. I haven't done anything wrong. All that, and that's escalation. That's escalation. That's why I say you control the situation by saying if they ask you if you are armed, yes, and in particular with your son, Wanda, I'm an Uber driver. I'm carrying. I have a concealed permit, and what is it that you want me to do, officer? And the officer may say, well, and they see your hands. Remember, they have keep your hands up on that steering wheel, and then they say to you, get out of the car. Then get out of the car. I agree. Get out of the car, but you have to be very careful getting out of that car too, okay? Because that's a dangerous point.
Yeah.
So coming out of that car is a very dangerous point. So make sure all your motions are fluid, you know, and they're slow, no rush motion, and you're going out the car. But the main thing, if you see a police officer, watch their approach, because if they don't know how to approach you, they don't know what they're doing. And if they don't know what they're doing, they're a danger to you. They are a danger to you. They're a danger to themselves. So you should know right away upon the approach of a police officer towards you whether they know what they're doing or not. And I should probably have this conversation with a lot more people. I know I've talked to a lot of the young guys in the neighborhoods about it. So just be aware. You know, the one thing I tell all new policemen, the first thing that you have to be aware of is your approach. When you're approaching a situation, the first thing you do before you take a step forward is you assess everything around you. You see as much as you can. You look and you find as much as you can so that you minimize the opportunity to be surprised. Because in that surprise moment is when you make a decision that could probably be the wrong decision. You know, so don't rush into a situation. You know, you see police officers, you see out on TV, they jump out the car and they're running, and that's crazy. You know, you get out the car and you assess the situation, and your approach. Again, the key to survival for the police is the approach, and that's the most important part of the whole confrontation.
Yeah, you know, it's different when the police pull me over, and I'm a white person, and a woman, they come right up to the window. They don't, I rarely see them stay in the back. They come right up to the window and they look in on me, and that to me is always intimidating, when they're just right up in there. Because I always thinking like, well, what did I do? And I'm a terrible driver, that's for sure. I think I got my license when I was 28, and I was only forced to get the license so I could work for the Harold Washington campaign. It said you don't know how to drive. So I was never not that great a driver. So, and I mix up signals. So I've been pulled over a couple of times, maybe 5 or 6 times in my life, and one time for speeding. But it always a little bit intimidates me because they come right up to that window and they say, they're not, only one was abrupt with me, and it got me so nervous. I was so
I know. Look, Andrea,
I had this clipboard with papers on it, and he says, you're not supposed to have that. And I took it down and the papers went all over the place. I was just, and then he goes,
make you nervous, don't they?
Red light. And I said, well, there was 3 red lights, one there, and one there. And I thought the other road I could go down that way. And he said, where are you from? I said, Louisiana. He goes, well, there you go.
Wow. Yeah, that wasn't nice. One thing I always did, and I didn't work uniform long. I worked specialized units after my first year. But one thing I always did was when I stopped the car, I would ask the person, do you know why I stopped you? Before they asked me a question. And if they said, officer, I know I was a little late on the light, I'd say, well, let me see your driver's license and let me see your, well, back in those days, they didn't even have to have insurance. It wasn't mandatory that you show your insurance card as long as you weren't in an accident.
Right.
So I'd say, let me see your driver's license. I'd look at the driver's license, make sure it was valid. I'd give it back to them, and I'd tell them, be careful. And my reasoning for that was that as a police officer, you are allowed a certain amount of discretion. If I pull you over and I ask you why I stopped you, and you say you stopped me because I was late on a light, then you know what you did. Why should I waste your time to send you in front of a judge to tell the judge the same thing, cost you money and cost you time, when you've already recognized, hey, I know I was late, and I understand that human beings make mistakes. So, okay, be careful. Go on your way, be careful.
See,
and that's what
we need more officers like you, Matt. We need more officers like you. Officers that can really deal with people as people. Because we're afraid when I get stopped by the police, just like Andrea just said, when I get stopped by the police, I am so nervous. About a month ago, I got stopped by the police. I was at the red light. I was making a left turn. I'm on the phone. My phone is on the dash thing. I'm on the phone talking to one of my relatives. I'm on my way to work. And the police puts the light on behind me. I said, oh, the police behind me. I dropped the phone, and then I say, don't pick it up. Don't pick it up. Because you pick it up and you stooping over, they might think you're doing something. So don't pick it up. I left the phone on the floor, and I'm telling my cousin, I'm being stopped by the police. So you can hear everything. So just stay on the phone. And then the officer comes up and he says, can I have your driver's license and insurance? I give it to him. And I said, officer, why did you stop me? He said, you almost ran me off the road. I said, what? How did I do that? He said, when you made the left turn, you turned into a second lane. It was a 2-lane left turn. Well, I didn't know it. I thought I was in my lane. And so I said, well, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was 2-lane. I just made the left turn. He said, look, don't worry about it. Gave me back my license. Just be careful. You don't know. I think the rest of the day I was shaking, trying to get my nerves together.
The best thing that you did was not bend over to pick up that phone.
Right. My mind said, don't bend over to pick up that phone, because he had just pulled behind me, and I was like, oh no, don't pick up the phone. So I told my cousin, I said, I'm not picking up the phone. You can just hear everything. I'm not picking up the phone because I don't want him to think I'm doing something.
Right. Exactly.
And so I didn't. But I
Yeah, that
know
was a good move.
I'm 73 years old. And if I'm scared of the police, I can imagine other people. When I
Let
go
me
to court, I'm scared of the judge. So, I'm just a nervous wreck. But I'm so glad you came on and talked to us about this, man, because I don't know. I just see so many young people getting killed today. Not only by the police, but by themselves. It's just a lot of murder going on today, and it's so
And I
scary.
don't know why people are shooting people in cars.
I don't either.
Yesterday, they killed a 17-year-old Hispanic young man, and he was just at 4 o'clock in the afternoon driving his teammate to his back to his home, and the truck came by and just shot him and killed him.
Oh my
He was
God.
not in a gang or anything. These are crazy times. I'm
Yes.
scared to have my daughter go.
Well, one of the big problems today with the children is social media, because all of this stuff is hyped up on social media. A lot of the murders that you see, I'll give an example. And now I do a lot of community work where we go out and we talk to the kids in the street and everything. And what they do, they get into arguments on social media. They'll talk about each other. They'll talk about their girlfriends. They'll talk about their mothers. And then they'll say, well, come on and do something about it. And they'll post where they are. And
Wow.
these people will drive up there and they'll take vengeance, they over nothing. They had a young 15-year-old killed on 71st and King Drive about a month and a half ago, I guess. And he got into some kind of back and forth with some guy and said, well, come on down here and do something about it. And the guy drove there and killed him, got him
Oh,
dead. So social media plays a huge role in this. It plays a huge role in this. When I was coming up, there was a difference in the structure in gangs. Gangs had hierarchy. Gangs had leaders, and people followed the orders of the gang leader. As a policeman, when something happened and I needed the information on what's going on, I didn't go to the gangs. The gangbangers standing on the corner selling drugs. I'd go to who I wanted to talk to, and I'd explain to him how I was going to make his life miserable if this didn't stop. We had a police officer lose a gun. She lost her snub nose 38 chasing somebody in Stateway Garden. And she came into the office and she said, Lieutenant, I said, yeah. She said, I lost my snub nose 38. Now that's an automatic, like 30-day suspension. So I said, okay, I called all the tactical units in and I said, come on, let's go. And we went down the Stateway and I posted up in all the project buildings, posted tactical teams in all the lobbies where they sold drugs. And I said, anybody who throws paper on the ground, spits on the ground, they get locked up. I said, you lock them up. I said, and if they ask you why, you tell them I told you. So I'm standing at I guess it was about 3919 Federal. And a guy rides up on the bike and he says, Brandon. I said, yeah, what's up? He said, what's wrong? I said, my officer lost her snub nose 38. I said, now that cost about $350. I said, and I'm going to cost you about $350 every hour in every one of your locations until I get that gun back. So he said, okay, so he rode off. So half an hour later, he comes back. He says, it's under the viaduct in a paper bag.
wow.
So I go under the viaduct in a paper bag. There's the gun. So I call all my people together and I tell them, okay, got the gun. Get on out of here. Leave them alone. Don't bother them for the rest of the night. I said, this is their night.
See, you're the kind of
I said,
officer
they
we
earned
need
it.
on the street. That's the kind of officer we need on the street, because we need to teach people how important it is for them to understand that you all have a job to do, and that
Right.
if you're doing your job, then your job is to make sure that we're safe.
That's right.
And that there's
That's right.
no
Yeah, you don't.
violence. And so,
Yeah, you don't go out and escalate situations. And like you said, the important thing that you said, Wanda, is the police have a job, and when they understand and do their job right, and by rules and regulations, everything's okay. But you have to understand that the crooks have a job too. The crook's job is to do whatever they're doing and to get away. So if they're better at their job than you are at your job, then you shouldn't be on your job.
yeah.
Okay. One of the things I used to tell, because the police used to be furious and notorious about if you run from the police and they catch you, they're gonna beat you and whoop on you and stuff. And I
Yeah,
told my guys, once you catch them, the fight is over. The pursuit is over. Nothing else happens. And you leave it alone, because their job is to get away. Your job is to catch them. You have to
See,
be better at their job than they are at theirs. So,
see,
yeah,
oh man. Now, I'd love for, I don't know, do you all do the police go to like the high schools and talk to the young people about how they should respond to an officer should they get approached? Let me tell you, one day I had all four of my grandboys. They're men now, but they were teenagers then.
uh,
They were like 16, 18, 14, like that. It was four of them, and they're brothers. And I had just dropped them off at the corner store. They're gonna go in there and get some chips or whatever they're gonna get. And I'm getting ready to pull away because I took them home, and they live around the corner from the store. So I took them to the store because they want to buy something. And then I'm going home. And I live on the other side of town. So as I'm getting ready to pull off, I see the police pull up because it's four of them together,
yeah,
but they're brothers. So I'm just sitting. I stop. I pull to the side and I just watch what goes on. And the officers get out the car and they frisk him. All four of them. They frisk him, and then they tell him, "Y'all have to disperse." And they tell the kids, tell them we're brothers. We Our grandma just dropped us off, and the officers just walked away and left them alone. But see, I
mhm.
sat on the council for the attorney general. Uh, I think his name was Dick. I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, I remember when they said the officers that sat on that council, they said that they were going to do if they saw four or more young people in a bunch walking together, standing together, they were going to arrest them. They were going to, it was a term they used, that they were going to stop them and frisk them and maybe arrest them if they were in a group. And that's what I thought when I saw them stop my grandchildren. But they didn't do that. Maybe because when they frisked them, they didn't have anything. But suppose they had
Right.
something, what would have happened then? So I don't know.
Well, somebody
I just
wanted
have
to arrest. Well, it was, stop and frisk. And as a former policeman who worked guns, gangs, and drugs my whole career, stop and frisk was a heck of a tool. But the problem was it was abused by police officers. And, they just ride them down the street. And because you walking while black was a crime, you
yes,
know, and they're going to stop you if they just don't like the way you look. There's nothing that leads them to that, right? I would follow people, watch what they do. We'd set up surveillance, and then I know who to stop. I know who to go after. And stop and frisk was a good tool when it was used right, but they abused it. It's supposed to be gone, and it should be gone. I worked. We had what was called special employment. Special employment was where you would work outside of your unit of assignment on your days off. The Chicago Police Department had a special operations group back in that day. They called it SOG, and a lot of special operations duties were they would work the train lines and the bus lines, and you just monitor and see. But what these guys did, they would just pull up to a bus stop and grab guys for disorderly conduct, lock them up. And I went back to the office and I told them, no, I'm not working today. I can't, I'm not working like that. And I just didn't work. So there are a lot of good police officers, but they're often overshadowed by the misdeeds of those
yeah, yeah.
who are
And
on a
that's so
power trip.
unfortunate.
And you've got some viciously criminal police officers out there too. Believe that.
Yeah,
Believe that.
yeah. It's unfortunate. Well, I was looking online just to see what the rules and regulations were for the conceal and carry. And some of the things that were said was the person that has, you can't have a conceal and carry if you have if you have not, let me see, not having been involuntarily committed to a mental health facility. So if you got mental health, you can't get a conceal and carry. If you voluntarily are admitted to a mental health facility, this is all dealing with mental health. And then if you're addicted to a narcotic, or if you have an intellectual or developmental disability, you can't get a conceal and carry. So that then takes me to, what about the young man that went to that school that I think he had been, his mother or somebody they knew that he had a mental problem, but he was able to access that gun and went in there and hurt all those children. So,
Didn't he kill the mother before he left home? Isn't that the guy that killed his mother before he left home?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
kind
I
of
think that
scary.
was Parkland. I'm not sure if that was Parkland. I think it was Parkland. But yeah, that's it's scary. I mean, should people have the right to carry? Yes, I think they should. I mean, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't. But you have to follow all the rules that are associated with that. You know, you should go out and qualify once a year to make sure that you're knowledgeable about your weapon and proficient with your weapon. And you should probably try to attend some other type of training. You know, and one of the big problems I have with concealed carry is that once you go out of your element, and by that I mean you go into some other neighborhood, some other race of people who don't think like you, don't act like you, don't talk like you, don't walk like you. It changes all the dynamics. You know, in our neighborhood, one, I'll give you a perfect example. We could be standing on the corner hollering and cussing at each other, and just walk away laughing. Now, if a white officer drives up on that and has never been in our neighborhood, they see violence. Okay? You know, they can't interpret what we do because they're not from here. If you see two white guys standing on the corner cussing each other, somebody's gonna fight. They're gonna fight.
Yeah.
They're gonna fight. Us, it's just, I mean, as a kid I did that, growing up, So the culture difference is a clear obstacle to police officers being able to work in a community with empathy, because you don't know how I live and I don't know how you live.
Exactly. And
you don't know what I do and I don't know what you do.
I often wonder why they have police officers in Black communities that are not Black. And sometimes there is a Black police officer with a white police officer, and he act worse than the white police officer.
Yeah, well, you got a problem, but I don't think that it's impossible for police officers to work in communities that they don't live in or that they're not culturally assigned from. You know, you just have to be able, as a supervisor or as an institution that does training, you have to be able to identify those officers who are like that, because in the perfect world, we want people of all cultures and races to work together and get along. That's what we want. But you can't abandon the reality of the deficiencies in our system that don't allow us the opportunity to say, wait a minute, no, maybe you're not right for this, and maybe you're not right for this. And then have a conversation about it. You know, police officers don't like to talk about things, and that's a big problem. A bigger problem with the police department is, now they talk about these things about police officers getting mental health help and all that. Are you crazy? A police officer is not going to go in and tell somebody they need mental health assistance.
Right. They're not going to tell them.
It's gone. And the problem is that should be something that begins in the academy. That should be a part of the curriculum started in school. You can't do it. You've been on the street. You've been out here with these people who telling you what being the police is, And they don't do that. They won't do that. They should put that in as curriculum in the academy when you first come in the door, and they should make that a serious part of your training, that
Right.
you find out and understand how to recognize when there is something that's affecting you. And that doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you crazy. It makes you smart enough to understand, hey, I need to sit down and have a conversation. Because all those people you let build all that stuff up inside of them, it's going to blow up on somebody in the public or blow
Yeah.
up on their family, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it ends in suicide, you know.
Yes, it does. So many police officers have killed themselves over the last like 5 years. Like it's epidemic. It's just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have these problems and they can't deal with them, but they don't want to notify their employer that they have issues and they need help addressing those issues.
Because they're afraid they're going to never get that job back.
Right.
But I mean, I you know, I want to work in an environment where I like to go to work, because then I do the best I can do because I like what I'm doing. But if the officers don't like, stop being an officer. I mean, they don't like, maybe they like being an officer, but they just don't have the stability or the mental clarity to do that well. So they need to examine themselves. We need to do some self-reflection.
Why can't they have a desk job? Why do they have to be out on the street?
No,
That makes sense.
No, I think no. I think police officers are supposed to be on the street. I think civilians should be on the desk. I think the problem is that they forget that the very first tenet of police work is to serve. Okay, it's to serve, and they forget that part of their job. You know, serve and protect. You know, serve and protect. So they go right to the protect, which suggests that you have to engage, right? Service is a lot different, and they don't teach enough about what it is to serve the public. You know, so
Yeah.
there are a lot of shortcomings the way that they train, and hopefully that they'll make some changes to that. But yeah, it's hard being a police officer and not being able to talk to somebody. I think the only way to do it is, and I don't know how. I'm not smart enough to know how, is to create some kind of, say, like, and I'm just on top of my head, say a green card. Say that every police officer has a green card and that they can go to any social service agency of their choosing if they feel as if they have some issues, and they can have that counseling without having to have that reported. Now, there should be a caveat to that. If that counseling involves serious conversations about somebody wanting to do some harm to somebody, that takes it to a different place.
Yeah.
Okay. But there should be some way for police officers to go and have those conversations with professionals and not necessarily have it reported. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that would help a lot.
Oh boy. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. You got questions, Glenda, Andrea, Delashawn? Anybody got questions for Matt?
I would love to, but if I open my mouth, it's already, if I my speakers already.
Come over here. You can come over here and talk.
That's okay.
I thought that everything has been very informative.
To really look at what rises words.
I agree. I appreciate your feedback, Matt.
Citizens are not.
Thank you.
Okay. Huh? What'd you say, Andrew?
No, I was just saying.
I told Matt that I appreciated his feedback.
Yes.
And I said that
I know, Wanda, you're taking care of your grandkids, right? I'm taking care of a scared dog that's so shaken because of the thunderstorm. Is it thundering out there? You guys are
yeah, it just started. Yeah, it just started.
The dog is going crazy.
Now, Glenda, what was your question for Matt?
I was asking, what is the language versus police versus citizen? I don't want, you tell me don't say driving because that could get me in trouble with the police. You say traveler. So what protocol should we be aware of that police use as words or language that we as citizens don't know?
Did you hear her, Matt?
Yeah, I did. Basically, what is the language of police? Um, well, I mean, there's not much language that police use that you wouldn't know, other than say let me try a scenario. Okay, I come up to a situation. It seems to be a situation that can become violent. Okay, and not with the police, but say two groups of people, and other police arrive on the scene, and I identify to them who I think are the perpetrators. Okay, which means the people who are initiating the problem and who would be the victims of the problem. You know, those would be some of the things you want to listen to. And if you ever hear a police officer call a 10-1, they're putting out a call that's going to bring a flood of police in a hurry, because you're saying that a police officer needs help right now. And they're
Wow.
going to come in a hurry, and they're going to come with attitude. So if you hear them yell out 10-1, it's just, and you're not part of it, get out the way.
Look,
Just
I
get out the way.
remember my daughter, she was leaving her husband, and so she was putting him out, and so she had me come over, and I brought my niece because we were going to help her move some stuff or whatever. And so the husband, I think the husband called the police. He's outside the apartment. He called the police. The police comes, and so my niece, she's I got my badge on that says I'm a media person credentialed by the police department. So I show the officer the badge. I say, this is my daughter. This is my niece. We're just here to accommodate her. And this exchange that her husband was getting his clothes or whatever. And my niece, who's like, at that time, I think she was like 29 or whatever, she studies running her mouth. You know, she studies saying, come on, auntie, come on, we don't have to stay here. We don't have to listen. Let's just go. And I'm saying, you know what? Let me go to the car. And I told the officer, let me go to the car and get my camera, because I was gonna film this whole interaction. I left to go get the camera, and I come back. The officer didn't told her again, don't talk. He told her to be quiet, but she kept talking. By the time I got back, this officer grabbed her by her neck, pulled her down on the ground. And I'm saying, officer, that's a woman, that's a girl, you can't do that.
Carrying firearms.
He said some kind of code. I don't know what he said. Next thing I know, about 10 police cars showed up. I was
we have a retired officer on here who's been a lieutenant.
Girl, they took her, they grabbed her,
how you should do so you won't get
put her
shot.
in the car, took her to the police
I just found out my
we all
brother has a
following the
concealed weapon
police.
as an
It's
Uber
like a
driver.
trail of us. We all following the police.
I didn't even know
We
that.
get to the police station, and the officer comes out. He says he comes out with a rap sheet. He says she had been to prison. She had done whatever she had done. I'm on the phone.
Come here, let me help you.
And so he says,
Can I help you?
so we get there. So the man, she brings out this rap sheet, and I'm saying, officer, but what has this got to do with why you brought her
with
here
the arrest?
He said they start talking about her whole past, and that's gave him the right to pull her down by her neck and
you sleep.
to secure her. I was like, oh my God. But
First of all,
I don't know what happened. I don't know how that happened.
He had no right to tell her to shut up. What I mean, this is a grown person. If you don't want to listen to what she's saying, as long as she's not a physical threat to you, and she gives you your space, you know, your personal private zone, she can say whatever she wants to say.
He told her to shut up, and that's why I went to get the camera so I could film what was going on. Shoot, by the time I got back, that man had her on the ground in handcuffs. I was like, oh my God, I never saw, on TV, but I really
Yeah.
never saw in person and no officer putting his hand around no woman's neck and bring. She's only 29 years old. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah,
guess
that's
I got my fears about officers and how they treat us. But when this conceal and carry thing came out, I was telling my son, I said, I
Well,
don't know about that.
I think it's a good thing. I mean, the job that he does is a dangerous job. I think it's a good thing for him to be able to protect himself. You know, sometimes it's not enough for these fools that you give them what they ask for and you step away, you know. And so I applaud him. I think, you know, he just needs to know his weapon. He needs to be able to be accurate with his weapon and understand, and this, as I say that, most exchanges of gunfire occur within 7 to 10 feet. It's not one of these long range shootouts. It happens fast and it happens close.
Wow.
So, you know, I think he needs, I think with what he's doing, I think he needs to be on that.
Okay.
I really do.
Whew, well, thank you.
Thank
If you
you.
all have any
Thank you.
questions, please ask them because I'm just so thrilled that Matt took the time to talk with us because
Thank you very,
it's
very
really
much.
it's really bothering me, but I feel better because I'm
I
gonna
do
tell
too.
my son he should have been on the show, but he's at the Marriott tonight, so he working. He couldn't be on. But the
Well, I
other
thought,
son is on, and so
yeah,
he's in California,
All
and
right.
a lot of
and
stuff
I
happens
thought,
out there too. So
yes, and I thought that
Andrea, that's
everything,
my son, Delashawn. Delashawn, that's Andrea.
Well,
That's the
what part of
attorney that helped
California
me
are
with my
you?
property.
What town in California?
Uh-oh.
I live in Milpitas.
He answered you.
I was in Walnut Creek in Orrington, north of Orrington,
Yeah, Walnut
over the
Creek is not too
weekend.
far from.
Yeah, over the weekend for a wedding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with that area, but I thought that everything was very informative, so I'm glad that I was on it.
Well, I
Thank you.
appreciate having the opportunity to speak to everybody.
Oh, we appreciate
And
you doing that.
yeah, I was glad I had the opportunity to come on. Thank you, Wanda. I appreciate
Oh,
that.
thank you. And Glenda wants you to know she knows you. You know Glenda Fulton, sarcoidosis,
The,
national sarcoidosis.
yeah, I know Glenda. Yeah.
she
Hello?
she the one asking the question. She's here with me.
Oh, okay. Hey, Glenda.
She said, all we gotta say is Kankakee, huh?
You know where we come from, right? Hopkins Park.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Andrea, it's always a pleasure to have you on,
Thank
and I
you.
really
Thanks for
appreciate the
inviting me.
input. And
Okay.
Good
Glenda,
meeting everybody. Yeah.
Good
yeah,
meeting
thank you all. Thank you all. I think we had a good show, and now I'm going to put this out there for everybody else to learn what to do and what not to do.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
You have a good evening. You're
You
welcome.
too. Thank you. Bye bye, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.